Hi friends, today we will discuss about a new chapter, wave optics. The corpuscular theory of light was given by scientist Descartes in the year 1637 and it was further developed by Isaac Newton, who could explain the laws of reflection and refraction but did not explain the phenomena of diffraction, interference and polarization. However, in the year 1678, Dutch physicist Christian Huygens put forward the wave theory of light, satisfactorily explaining the phenomena of reflection, refraction, diffraction, interference and polarization. Further, in the year 1801, Thomas Young performed his famous interference experiment and established that light is indeed a wave phenomenon. Propagation of light through vacuum was also explained by Maxwell in electromagnetic wave theory of light. In this section and chapter number 10, we will first discuss the original formulation of Huygens principle and derive the laws of reflection and refraction and also explain the phenomena of interference, diffraction and polarization. Hence, welcome to you for this session. Please note down all important points as the same will help you in your examination. Wave optics. According to this theory, light is a form of energy which travels through a medium in the form of a transverse wave motion. The speed of light in a medium depends upon the nature of medium. A wavefront is defined as a continuous locus of all particles or wavelets of a medium which are vibrating in the same phase. A wavelet is a point of disturbance due to propagation of light. A line perpendicular to a wavefront is called a ray. Please see the figure on the right hand side. Here, three different figures are shown. The spherical wavefront from a point source. This is a spherical wavefront from a point source. The point source is at the center of these circles. This is a source and the wavefront, the light emitted from this source is a wavefront from a point source, and these are the rays. The red color arrows are the rays and blue color is the wavefront. Cylindrical wavefront is this is the cylindrical wavefront from a linear source. The linear source is at the center. This is the green color is a linear source of light and its wave front is cylindrical in shape, that is circles around that source around it and the arrows are emanated in this direction. And the third figure is a plane wavefront. This is a plane wavefront and the light rays are entering from left and passing through this wavefront. This is the plane wavefront. The pink dots very minute in nature, if you see on this circle or on these circles and are in the plane are wavelets, that is small sources of light. The blue front, whether it is a circle in the case of a point source and a spherical cylinder in the case of a linear source, and the blue envelope, these are all called the wavelets, pink dots on these circles on these figures are wavelets. Blue envelope is a wavefront and the red line is the arrow. Red line is the arrow. There are three types of wavefront: spherical, cylindrical and plane, as shown in the figure. Spherical wavefront. When a source of light is a point source, the wavefront is spherical. Its amplitude A is inversely proportional to the distance. Amplitude A is inversely proportional to the distance, that is A is proportional to 1 over x, and its intensity I is proportional to the square of the amplitude or inversely proportional to the square of the distance, that is A is proportional to 1 over x or I is intensity is proportional to A square, that is proportional to 1 over x square. Cylindrical wavefront. When the source of light is linear, the wavefront is cylindrical. Here, in case of cylindrical wavefront, amplitude is inversely proportional to the square root of the distance. Intensity is proportional to square of the amplitude, that is proportional to 1 over x, that is x is the distance. Energy travels in perpendicular direction to the wavefront. Please see here, the energy travels in the perpendicular direction to the wavefront. Plane wave, small portion of spherical wave at a very large distance from a point source. See, if you view the light, if you want to detect a light at a very large distance from this point source, it appears as a plane wave. Nearer to the point source, it is cylindrical or spherical, and at a far away distance it is plane wave. So I will repeat this: plane wave, small portion of spherical wave at large distance from the point source is a plane wave. Huygens wave theory. Huygens stated that light travels in a medium in the form of a wavefront. A wavefront is the continuous locus of all particles of a medium which are vibrating in the same phase. Arc particles behave as secondary source of light which emit secondary wavelets. Please see here in this diagram on the right hand side, S is a source. So, a wavefront is formed at a short nearer to the source as shown in the figure, which is continuous locus. So, there are the wavelets, these dotted lines are wavelets. So, the locus, the path trace joining all these wavelets is a wavefront. Hence, a wavefront is a continuous locus. It is a continuous locus of all particles of a medium which are vibrating in the same phase. All these particles shown red are vibrating in the same phase. All particles behave as secondary source. So, these behave as a secondary source. These wavelets behave as a secondary source of light which emit secondary wavelets. See, a wavefront, this is a wavefront, a point source becomes a wavefront, spherical wavefront, and further as we move away at a very far distance, it becomes a plane. So, the new wavefront is from point to spherical, spherical to plane. These are all the spherical and plane are the new wavefronts. For the discussions of optical properties of electromagnetic waves, more significance is given to electric field vector E. Therefore, electric field is called the light vector. Please note that. for all practical purposes and calculation, we take electric field as a light vector. The envelope of secondary wavelet represents the new position of a wavefront. See, this is the wavelet represents the envelope of secondary wavelets becomes the new position of a wavefront. Huygens principle. Huygens observed that every point on a given wavefront is a primary wavefront. It acts as a fresh source of new disturbance called the secondary wavelets. That means every point on this locus on the wavefront is a primary wavefront. It acts as a fresh source of new disturbance called the secondary wavelet. It is called secondary wavelets, but it is a primary source of disturbance. The secondary wavelets travels in all the directions. This secondary wavelet travels in all the directions with speed of light in the medium. A surface touching these secondary wavelets tangentially in the forward direction at any instant gives the secondary wavefront at that instant. That is, any tangent to this point gives the new secondary wavefront at that instant. Now, let us study the phenomenon of reflection and diffraction using Huygens principle. Earlier, we have studied reflection and refraction using optical rays theories. Now, we will prove it through Huygens principle. First, let us take law of reflection, plane wave. Here, these are the rays, blue color are the rays falling on a mirror xy. Xy is a mirror, plane mirror, and light rays are falling here, and these are getting reflected in this direction. We know from optical rays theory that incident ray is equal to reflected ray. Now, we have to prove the same thing using Huygens principle. So, let us study it. So, here AB is a incident wavefront and DC is the reflected wavefront. Therefore, let us consider triangle ABC as shown in the figure. Okay. N is the normal to this plane mirror, and normal to the incident and reflected wave N. Therefore, let us study triangle ABC is identically equal to similar to ADC, is similar to triangle ADC, because angle ABC is 90 degrees. Here angle CDA is 90 degrees. Therefore, both the triangles are standing on the same base AC. Hence, ABC is similar to ADC from the theories of geometry. Therefore, angle I will be equal to angle R. Hence, the law of reflection is proved. Law of refraction. Please see the figure on the right hand side. There are two mediums. One is rarer medium with the speed V1 and refractive index N1. This is a rarer medium. There is another medium, denser medium with the speed V1, V2 and refractive index N2. The light travels here and gets refracted, that is, it bends towards the normal because it is traveling from rarer medium to denser medium. and the angle of incidence with the normal is I, and angle of refraction here it is R. See, the R is shown here in the denser medium. Legend. V1 is the velocity in medium 1. BC, the distance BC is equal to V1 into T. That is velocity over time taken, distance BC over time taken is equal to velocity V1. Here BC is the distance travelled by this ray in time t. Therefore, its distance length is BC is equal to V1 t. V2 is the velocity in medium 2. After entering this medium 2, its velocity change becomes V2 and its refractive index, as we know, it is N2. Therefore, N1 is the refractive index of the medium 1 and N2 is the refractive index of the medium 2. And let us go to solve the problem. From triangle ABC, BC over AC is equal to V1T. BC is V1T divided by AC. Here we have shown BC is equal to V1T. That is equal to sine of I. Sine I, opposite side by hypotenuse. This is red color is hypotenuse, BC is opposite side. Therefore, that is the sine I, sine of this angle. Let it be equation 1. From triangle ADC, which is in the denser medium, AD, yeah, this is the refracted angle. AD, opposite side, AD divided by AC is equal to, AD is here V2T, because that is the path difference, V2T divided by AC. That is equal to sine of R. Let this be equation 2. Please note that angle ADC is 90 degrees here, because wave front is incident line. Therefore, dividing equation 1 by equation 2, we get sin I by sin R is equal to V1 by V1 by V2, T and T get cancelled. Let it be equation 3. But we know from our knowledge of refractive index, velocity of light in rarer medium to velocity of light in the denser medium is given by the respective refractive indexes, that is N2 divided by N1. Therefore, sin I by sin R is equal to N1 sin I equals N2 sin R. Therefore, V1 by V2 is equal to lambda 1 by lambda 2, that is V1 by lambda 1, that is equal to V2 by lambda 2. Hence, behavior of wavefront. Let us study the characteristics of wavefront. First case, plane wave passing through a thin prism. The speed of light is less in glass, where thickness of glass is more. Hence, refracted wave gets tilted. As you have seen in the previous diagram, the refracted wave gets tilted. You please see in the case of prism, the speed of light here, where the thickness of glass is more, the prism has got a inverted, this is a inverted prism, and here the thickness of glass is less, whereas the thickness of glass in this region is more. Therefore, the speed of light is less in the glass where thickness of glass is more. Hence, the refracted wave gets tilted. You see the wave, this is the incident wave and this is a refracted wave. So, this refracted wave is getting tilted here by a convex lens. There are different figures shown here. This is a convex lens. See figure 2, consider a plane wave. AB is a incident and plane wave incident on the convex lens. The central part of the incident plane wave transverses the thickest portion of the lens and is delayed most. So, what happens when light ray wavefront is incident here? This is the thickest part. So, the light undergoes time delay. Okay, time delay is most here in this part, whereas thickness is less here and it goes faster. The emerging wavefront has a depression. So, here it arrives at a later time and it arrives fast here. So, the wavefront is bent, spherical, and it becomes a plane wave becomes spherical and it points a wavefront. Hence, the emerging wavefront has a depression at the center and therefore, the wavefront becomes spherical and converges to a point F, which is known as focus. This is a convex lens. Similar is the case. These are converging rays. You please see the diagram. These are converging rays to a focal point. Whereas, similar case, a concave lens. Let us see a concave lens. The concave lens, the plane wavefront comes as usual, but here the thickness is more on the upper and lower side. So, there is a delay, whereas here it undergoes fast, thickness is less and it goes early. Hence, the wavefront is a concave. It is a divergent ray. The light ray gets divergent here at CD are divergent rays, and there is a delay and it becomes a concave. It becomes a spherical shape. So, a plane wave becomes a spherical wave. Okay. Here also it becomes spherical but converging. Here the radius is increasing, hence it becomes divergent. This is the case of lenses. See, by a concave mirror, these two cases are concave mirror cases. Here also a plane wave is incident on a concave mirror, and on reflection we have a spherical wave converging at a point F. In a similar manner, we can understand the diffraction and reflection by concave lenses and convex lenses. This is a concave mirror and this is a convex mirror because of the shape. Please note the differences and practice all these 5 diagrams. There may be some 1 mark question on this. From the above discussion, it follows that the total time taken from a point on the sub-object to the corresponding point on the image is the same measured along any ray. For example, when a convex lens focuses light to form a real image, although the ray is going through the center traverses a shorter path, but because of the slower speed in glass, the time taken is the same for the rays traveling nearer to the edges of the lens. This is a very important point, which says that when a convex lens focuses light from a real convex lens image, although the ray is going through the center traverses shorter path, but because of slower speed of glass, because of slower speed of the ray, the time taken is same as for the rays traveling near to the edges. The time taken is same. The path difference may be there, but time taken is same. So, this arrow point that these are the cases of concave mirror and these are the convex and concave lenses. Section 10.5 we will study about the coherent sources. The sources emitting light of same wavelength, same frequency, having zero or constant phase difference are called coherent sources. Hence, the sources emitting light of same wavelength, same frequency, having zero or constant phase difference are called coherent sources of light. Incoherent sources. When the phase difference between the two sources of light changes with time, then the sources of light are called incoherent sources of light. Superposition. When two similar waves propagate in a medium simultaneously, then at any point the resultant displacement is equal to the vector sum of displacement produced by individual waves. That is, the resultant y will be equal to y1 plus y2, where y1 is a wave and y2 are two different wave vectors, and their sum will be the addition of the two. Please see the diagram on the right hand side. Here there are two waves. First wave is E1 and second wave is E2. So, in the case of superposition principle, at any instant of time we can add E1 plus E2. This blue colored wave is E2 and red colored is E1, and the resultant is shown by the green color. Because their phases are same, they add up. Let us study the details of these two waves. Let E1 is equal to E0 sin omega t, where E1 is the instantaneous value, E0 is the peak value, and sin omega t, omega is the angular frequency and t is the period. So, E1 is represented by E1 is equal to E0 sin omega t. See, if there is a phase difference between the two second wave, let us consider second wave E2, where E2 is equal to E0 sin omega t plus phi, where phi is the phase difference. Adding using superposition principle, E will be equal to E1 plus E2, that is E is equal to E0 sin omega t, that is this part, plus E0 sin omega t plus phi, that is the second part. Therefore, we know from our knowledge of trigonometry, sin A plus sin B is equal to 2 sin of A plus B by 2 into cos of A minus B by 2. This is from trigonometry. Hence, we will solve this and we will expand this sin of omega t plus phi using sin A sin B. That becomes E1 plus E2 is equal to 2 E0 cos phi by 2 into sin of omega t plus phi by 2. Please work out this in your notebook and prove that E is equal to 2 times E0 cos phi by 2 sin omega t plus phi by 2. This is a very simple exercise, please do it. Here there is a sine of angle, sin omega t plus phi by 2. Leaving this, this is an amplitude. 2 E0 cos phi by 2 is the amplitude and this is a sinusoidal wave. A is equal to 2 times E0 cos of phi by 2. This is the theory part of the coherent and coherent and two waves E1 and E2. Interference of light. When two waves of exactly same frequency coming from two coherent sources travel in a medium in the same direction simultaneously, then due to their position at the same points, intensity of light is maximum, while at some other points intensity of light is minimum. This phenomena is called interference of light. That is, interference is a phenomena by which there are maximum and minimum intensities of light, and it shows maxima and minima as per the descriptions given below. Intensity, as we know from the previous equations, intensity I is proportional to square of the amplitude of the wave. Therefore, I is proportional to A square, that is, I is proportional to 2 times E naught cos phi by 2 whole square. This 2 times A is equal to 2 times E naught cos phi we have seen in the previous section 10.5. Therefore, suppose we make E naught is proportional to I naught, that is intensity, peak intensity as I naught. Therefore, I becomes 2 I naught, 2 I naught whole square becomes 4 I naught. I is equal to 4 times I naught into cos square phi by 2. This is the basic equation for intensity and relationship between peak intensity and the phase difference. Constructive interference. The interference taking place at points of maximum intensity is called constructive interference. For constructive interference, I should be maximum, that is cos phi is equal to plus 1. That is, in this equation, if cos phi is equal to 1, then I is equal to 4 times E naught. So, when phi becomes cos phi becomes 1, when phi is equal to 0, cos phi is equal to 1. We know from the knowledge of our trigonometry. So, when phi is equal to 360, then also cos phi is equal to 1. So, putting these values of cos phi as 1 for different angles 0, 2 pi and up to n pi, we get I maximum equals to 4 naught I. Under such circumstances, when I max is equal to 4 I naught, then it is constructive interference. Hence, the interference taking place at points of maximum intensity is called constructive interference. Please see here, these are the different wavefronts at different points. These are the wavefronts emanating from two sources S1 and S2, and these are two sources, two waves, and they are forming alternately constructive and destructive interferences. Destructive interference, the interference taking place at points of minimum intensity is called destructive interference. Here cos phi is equal to minus 1. Therefore, I will be equal to, when cos phi is 0 or minus 1, I is equal to I minimum, that is equal to 0. When phi is equal to pi, if we put phi is equal to pi, 3 pi, 5 pi, then I is equal to I minimum equal to 0. Therefore, we can represent phi as phi is equal to 2m plus 1 into pi, where m is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. These are the wavefronts forming where constructive joining, when they are in phase, when maximum it is becomes, when the intensity is maximum, it becomes a bright band. When the intensity is minimum, it becomes a dark band. Hence, we have studied about constructive interference. This is very important. Please note, the interference taking place at points of maximum intensity is called constructive interference, and the interference taking place at points of minimum intensity is called destructive interference. Young's double slit experiment is used to find out the path length, the position of rings, dark and bright spots, and fringe width. So let us see the experiment setup. S is the source of light, and the beam of light passes through a single slit first, and then it passes through a double slit S2, and finally it converges at screen. So the distance between screen and the slits, two slits, is capital D, and the spacing between S1 and S2 is small d, and we are required to determine y, the distance between O and P. Here O is the center of the screen. The waves from S1 and S2 reach the point P with some phase difference, and hence path difference delta is equal to S2P minus S1P. So this is S1P and this is S2P. The difference of S2P and S1P, that is the path length, is delta. So we have to study the geometry of the diagram shown here. To find an equation for the path difference and position of fringes, we know that we have given delta is equal to S2P minus S1P. This is S1P and this is S2P. Therefore, we will consider separate squaring S2P square minus S1P square. So using algebra knowledge, here S2P is d square, that is S2P is hypotenuse d square plus y plus d by 2 whole square, minus S1P is d square once again plus y minus d by 2 whole square. Therefore, this S2P p square minus S1P square can be expanded as S2P minus S1P into S2P plus S1P, that is A plus B, A square minus B square is equal to A plus B into A minus B. See, this simplifying we get 2D. Therefore, delta into 2D, the S2P minus S1P is delta, and S2P plus S1P can be regarded as 2D because D is far larger than small d, and it will be, they will be almost, if D is very large, S1P and S2P will be equal, that will be 2D, that is equal to 2D on the right hand side. Therefore, path length delta will be is equal to y d by d. So here we can write it is a multiple of n into lambda, that can be written as position of y fringes will be is equal to y equals d into n lambda divided by small d, that is the position of y fringes. So path difference delta is equal to y d by d. Coming back to this main equation, delta is equal to y d by y small d by capital D, 10.7a. In condition for constructive interference resulting in bright fringes, the path difference is equal to, we know, n times lambda, where n is the number of fringe, is an integer, and lambda is the wavelength. Therefore, y into small d by capital D is equal to n into lambda. That this is the n into lambda is the condition for constructive interference. Therefore, y will be is equal, y equals n into lambda into capital D by small d. Let the equation be 10.7c. So the distance between two consecutive bright rings is called fringe width. Therefore, if y is the y1, yn is the fringe, is the distance distance of first ring, and yn plus 1 is the second ring, the position of second ring, the distance spacing between the two is called the fringe width. Therefore, beta is equal to y into y suffix n plus 1 minus yn, that is equal to lambda d by t. That is the difference. Fringe width is given by lambda capital D by small d. Therefore, a bright fringe is at theta equal to 0, that is on the central axis. This is the central axis. Here theta equal to 0. This theta, this angle of separation is 0. Yeah, that's why we get a bright path. Then hence here the phase difference is 0 and path length is also 0. That is why we get a bright spot here. Now we will take up destructive interference. Condition for destructive interference resulting in dark rings. That is, the destructive interference results in dark rings and constructive interference results in bright rings. Therefore, path difference here will be n plus half into lambda, that is half multiple of wavelength. Here full multiples, integer, that is n is a full integer 0, 1, 2, 3, and here 0 plus half, 1 plus half, so n plus half of lambda. So path difference will be n plus half into lambda, therefore 10.7 e. Substituting this in this equation, we get y into small d by capital D is equal to n plus half into lambda, or y is equal to 2 within brackets 2n plus 1 into lambda d by 2d. This is the path difference for destructive interference. Let it be equation 10.7 f. Dark and bright rings are equally spaced, and the distance between the two dark rings is also called the fringe width. So fringe width is the distance either the distance between two bright rings or two dark rings. These are represented by beta equals yn plus 1 minus yn, which can be either for two consecutive bright rings or for dark rings. Relationship between intensity, amplitude and width of the wave. Let the amplitudes of two waves be A and B. Therefore, I max is proportional to A plus B whole square, that is A square. The amplitude is A plus B here, because the waves have two different amplitudes. Amplitude of wave 1 is A and amplitude of wave 2 is B. Therefore, I max will be, which is proportional to the square of the amplitude, is proportional to A plus B whole square. Therefore, I minimum is proportional to A minus B. Dividing equation 1 by equation 2, we get I max by I minimum is equal to A plus B whole square divided by A minus B whole square. So this can be simplified as you take B as a common, it becomes within brackets A by B plus 1 whole square divided by A by B minus 1 whole square. Let this be equation 3. Let us represent A by B as R. That is the ratio of their magnitudes. Therefore, I maximum by I minimum can also be represented as R plus 1 whole square divided by R minus 1 whole square. We also know that intensity of light is proportional to A square, but A is proportional to the width, square root of the width. Therefore, I max by I minimum is equal to A1 square divided by A2 square, that is equal to width 1 by W1 by W2. This is, let it be equation 5. So we have two different equations for the ratio of I max to I minimum. That is equation number 4, that is equal to I max by I minimum is equal to R plus 1 whole square divided by R minus 1 whole square. where R is equal to A by B, that is the ratio of amplitude of wave 1 to the amplitude of wave number 2. This can also be written in terms of width. I max by I minimum is equal to W1 by W2. Suppose the two interfering waves have the same amplitude A. Then in place of B we can write A. Therefore, I maximum is proportional to A plus A whole square. That means this is 2A, whole square is 4A square. Therefore, I maximum is proportional to A square. All the bright fringes have this same intensity. This is shown in the figure above. These are the this is the intensity and the axis. This is the timeline, and all the bright fringes have the same intensity. Here you see same intensity. For minimum, for dark fringes, A minus A, so I minimum will be 0. Therefore, all the dark fringes will have 0 intensity. So because intensity I minimum is 0 here at the base it is 0. Therefore, all the dark fringes will have 0 intensity. Conditions for sustained interference. First, condition number 1. The two sources producing interference must be coherent. That means their amplitude, velocity should be same, and phase difference should be constant always. The two interfering wave trains must have the same plane of polarization. About polarization we will study in the next session. So just note that must have the same plane of polarization. The two sources must be very close to each other, and the pattern must be observed at a large distance to have sufficient width of fringe. That is, the D, capital D should be large, small d should be small, very small. The sources must be monochromatic, otherwise the fringes of different colors will be overlap. That means there should be, the sources should have the same. That is why in our experimentals we use the same sodium vapor lamp. The two waves must be having same amplitude, same for better contrast between bright and dark fringes. These are the conditions of sustained interference. Now we have completed the theory part of wavefront, except polarization and diffraction. Now let us take up some questions, 1-mark questions. What type of wavefront will emerge from a distance source and a point source? 1-mark question. So distance source, as we say, so we can have plane front and spherical front. Nearer to that it is a spherical front, and very far off it is a plane front. What is the shape of wave front on the earth of a sunlight? Here D is capital D is very large, and it will be a plane front. What are the coherent sources of light? Two sources having constant phase difference. Having a constant difference constitute a coherent source of light. In what way the diffraction from each single slit related to interference pattern in double slit? In diffraction we have varying fringe intensity, while in interference we have constant intensity. We will study about diffraction in the next session. Question number 5. In Young's double slit experiment, how is the fringe width altered if the separation between the slits is doubled and distance between the slits and the screen is halved? Different width is given by the relation beta is equal to lambda into capital D by small d. Therefore, now in the given question, now the small d is doubled, that is d1 is equal to 2 times d, and the separation between slits and screen is halved, that is d1 is equal to d by 2. Therefore, beta 1 is equal to lambda into d1 by d, capital D1 by small d1. So, this we are substituting in this value, the new values of given values of d1 and capital D1 are substituted. Lambda into this d by 2 and divided by 2d. So, we get that is equal to lambda into capital D by 4d. Therefore, that beta becomes it is beta by 4, that is original beta by 4. Hence, the fringe width decreases to 1/4 of its value. Problem number 6. A narrow monochromatic beam of light intensity I is incident on glass plate. Another identical glass plate is kept close to the first one and parallel to it. Each plate reflects 25% of the incident light and transmits the remaining. That is 75% is transmitted. Calculate the ratio of minimum and maximum intensity. Please note it is minimum to maximum, whereas in our theory portion we had calculated for maximum to minimum. So, it is here it is reverse. In the interference pattern formed by the two beams obtained after reflection of each plate. Answer. Let I be the intensity of beam incident on first glass plate. Each plate reflects 25% of light incident on it and transmits 75%. Therefore, the values of I1, I2, I3, I4 and I5 are calculated taking into consideration 25% of light incidence and 75% of transmission. We get the values here for all the 5. Let us calculate the amplitude. Amplitude ratio of beams 2 to 5 is given by, that is amplitude is proportional to the square root of intensities. Therefore, intensity of I2 is 1 by 4 and intensity of I5 is 9 by 64, and we get taking square roots 4 by 3. Hence, I minimum to I maximum is the ratios that is R1 minus 1 whole square divided by R1 plus 1 whole square, that is 4 by 3 minus 1 whole square divided by 4 by 3 plus 1 whole square. That ratio is 49. The ratio is 1:49. Question number 7. In a two slit experiments with monochromatic light, fringes are obtained on a screen placed at some distance capital D from slits. If the screen is moved 5 into 10 to the power of minus 2 meters towards the slit, the change in fringe width is 3 into 10 to the power of minus 5 meters. If the distance between the slit is 10 to the power of minus 3 meters, calculate the wavelength of the light used. So, 2 marks answers. Question answer will say we have to know some of the equations. Beta is equal to d into lambda by d, capital D into lambda by small d. Therefore, b dash is given by d dash into lambda by small d. Therefore, b dash minus b is given by d minus d dash into lambda by d. Therefore, lambda from this equation, lambda is given by beta minus b dash into d divided by d minus d dash. But the d minus d dash is given by 5 minus, and beta minus b dash is equal to 3 into 10 to the power of minus 5 meters. Therefore, d is equal to, d is also given as 10 to the power of minus 3 meters. Therefore, substituting the values of d minus d dash, beta minus b dash and small d, we get lambda is equal to 3 into 10 to the power of minus 5 into 10 to the power of minus 3 divided by 5 into 10 to the power of minus 2. That is equal to 6 into 10 to the power of minus 7 meters. That is equal to 6000 angstrom. 3 mark questions. Draw the type of wavefront that corresponds to a beam of monochromatic light coming from a far off source and diverging radially from a point source. So, we have to draw two wavefronts here, one coming from a far off source and diverging radially from a point. Answer is the plane wavefront, that is coming from a far off source is a plane wavefront and diverging radially from a point source is spherical front. We have studied this in theory and we will repeat for your information again here. See, this is a plane wave. So, coming from a far off and a plane wavefront, and this is a from a point source diverging radially from a point source is a spherical wave from a point source. Question number 11. Sketch the wavefront corresponding to a converging rays and diverging rays. So, here also you have to draw, please practice it in your home, these diagrams. So, converging rays, these are converging rays. He has not told whether it is from a plane mirror or a lens. However, we have given all the figures. These are converging rays and this is also converging rays. Converging for a concave mirror and converging for a convex lens. Whereas diverging, here the rays are getting diverted. You see here falling and diverging. This is a convex mirror and this is a concave mirror. Rays are diverging. These are 3 marks questions. In Young's double slit experiment, explain the reason in each case how the interference pattern changes when separation between the slits is increased and the screen is moved away from the plane of the sun. Answer: beta is equal to capital D into lambda by small d. Part 1. Fringe width decreases as it is inversely proportional to the distance between the slit. That means, if you increase small d, the fringe width decreases. Part 2. Fringe width increases as it is directly proportional to distance between the slit and the screen. That means, as we increase capital D, the fringe width increases. 3 mark question. Question number 12. How will the angular separation and visibility of fringes in Young's double experiment change when the screen is moved away from the plane of the slit? Wavelength of light is increased. That is, we know theta is equal to lambda by d, that is, angle is equal to wavelength divided by the spacing between the slit. Therefore, there will be no effect on angular fringe width, because the capital D, theta does not depend on capital D. Angular separation increases as it is directly proportional to increase. If we increase the wavelength, angular separation increases. 5 mark question. Define a wavefront using Huygens principle, verifying the law of reflection at plane surface. Part B. In a single slit diffraction experiment, the width of the slit is made double the original width. How does it affect the size and intensity of the central diffraction band? See, we have not studied diffraction in this section 10A. This diffraction we will be studying in section 10B. Hence, we will skip this part B of the question. Part C asks, when tiny circular obstacle is placed in the path of light from a distant source, a bright spot is seen at the center of the obstacle. Explain why. These part A and part B we will discuss here. Answer: this is the wavefront we have shown here and studied in this section itself. We have repeated it for your sake, and please go through and draw the diagram again as a part of this answer to this question. AB is incident wavefront, CD is the reflected, because it is a plane mirror. So, triangle ABC is similar to triangle ADC, hence angle I is equal to angle R, hence law of reflection is proved. part B we will skip and we will take part C. When a tiny circular obstacle is placed in the path of light from a distant source, a bright spot is seen at center of the obstacle. Light when passes from border of circular obstacle, it is diffracted towards center of the obstacle. In central part, all diffracted wavefront meet, that is why center becomes bright.